justice through art, music, and movement. It's just that. It's using our gifts, our voice to fight for the world we believe in, we imagine, we believe that we can build for each and every being. The fight for liberation and justice is an ongoing fight, and I do believe it's going to take all of us to imagine and build a world where all beings can live fully beautiful lives, no matter where you come from, no matter what language you speak, no matter what land you live on. The systems that keep us oppressed are loud and strong, so we must be louder and stronger.
Jamila Sabares-Klemm, who's a Filipina-American activist, actor, and singer whose passion and talents have taken her on a journey across the nation, now gracing the Broadway stage as Dory/Evelyn in the riveting revival of Merrily We Roll Along. Jamila is also co-founder of Justice Through the Arts, Music, and Movement, also known as J.A.M.M, a collective led by women of color passionately committed to cultivating spaces where art, music, and movement become powerful vessels for challenging injustice and dismantling oppressive systems. Prepare to be moved and inspired as we explore the extraordinary life, career, and activism of Jamila Sabares-Klemm. Hello, hello. I am so honored and excited to welcome you to the Rhythm of Rebellion in its new video form. This year, you're going to get to see interviews with incredible season 3 guests from last year, now in video form for the very first time, alongside brand new, inspiring season 4 artists. This transition to video is a big step for us, and I'm asking for your help to amplify these voices and stories. One of the most impactful ways that you can support this work is by liking this episode and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us bring even more incredible guests and stories to this platform. And I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. Now let's dive into the conversation. Hi, Jamila. Thank you so much for joining the Rhythm of Rebellion today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really grateful to be here.
It is such a gift to have you on the show. We first met, we'll talk a little bit about when we first met, supporting youth in music and climate justice in New York. And I remember seeing you and being introduced to you and the person introducing us saying, you two are going to be friends. Like, I just know you're going to be friends. Like, she's amazing. And then, of course, I have since discovered how amazing you are. And I was wondering if you could share with us a few of the pivotal moments that have influenced you on your journey to become a professional performer that intersects with activism.
Well, I really think the root of all this comes from my heritage and where I grew up. And I was born in the Philippines. I grew up in Manila. It's a very different land and space than here in the States. And my dad's American, my mom's Filipina. And I had a very privileged life, but in the Philippines, I just remember at a very young age seeing a very stark difference between how people lived and, you know, the horrors and atrocities of how people are forced to live just due to where they were born. I remember that igniting something in me as a young person. I think, you know, children see it, you know. You don't have the words or language to understand what's happening, but I knew something. I didn't understand why certain people got to live certain ways and other people didn't. And so I think from that, that really kind of stemmed everything else to this day. Both my parents, they actually met working at a refugee camp. Very progressive thinkers. And so growing up in Manila and seeing that as the reality of this world, but then also the beauty of music that was so present in my home, and of different people from all different walks of life, that we would have parties a lot, and my parents' friends came from everywhere. So
Were your parents musicians, or were they did they play music? Did they
Yes, my
sing?
my mom plays the flute and guitar. My dad plays a bit of piano, saxophone. They didn't do it professionally, but music filled my house
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
Whether it's from, Ella Fitzgerald, Carole King on the, tape player, or just, playing music. So I think that's really where this bond was formed inside of me. And I was really lucky to have parents, one who supported the dream of mine to pursue music, performing, and this artistry. And in high school, I was able to go to a performing arts high school, Carver Center for the Arts in Baltimore. And I like to say that it was where all like the freaks went, the people who didn't really quite fit in, who had very now thinking about it, radical views, like the youth who were, we were the ones who just questioned things that I didn't even know to question. And so I think that was definitely a pivotal experience for me. And then when I went to college, I went to school for musical theater. And I went to Penn State University, and I was taking this class called sociology class called Race and Racial Relations. And I remember after a class every day, I would call my parents and be like, "What am I doing with my life?" And just because it just opened my eyes to so many things that, again, I just wasn't necessary. I was exposed to it and I saw these things, but to then critically think about, question, our world, our society, the systems that are in place, I was finally starting to have a language and understanding of it. One of the things we had to do was go to something that we wouldn't normally go to. And so I remember going, my TA, who is a really great friend of mine, her name's Rosina Gilani. She actually founded ATL Radical Arts in Atlanta. She's a dear friend of mine still to this day. She kind of took me under her wing. And I remember going to this spoken word artist performance. I don't know if you know Carlos Andres Gomez.
I don't know if I do.
He's an incredible poet. There is a piece that he has called "What is Genocide?" And I think was one of the first moments where I was like, poetry and activism, artistry and activism, like seen together in such a powerful way that, again, planted the seed of, wait, I don't have to choose between just solely, music and mainstream. There's a way that these two can combine and come together. And then I came to New York and to pursue, the dream, the Broadway dream. And I was involved with the International Socialist Organization, which is probably the biggest impact of my political, education. And so in those movements and those, organized actions, music was present. Chants were present.
Yeah.
I was introduced to the Peace Poets and their work and bringing artistry to the streets, and with the people. Those really were the moments, I think, that one, empowered me to at least try and see if this was possible, and two, to affirm this, I guess, deep-seated and deep-rooted want and need of mine to be a vessel through like artistry and my body and my voice in what I believe is our responsibility as artists, and just affirm that is possible to do.
Jamila, what a beautiful story, origin story. I relate to so many things in there, like growing up in a musical Puerto Rican, family. And I also musical theater became my love in high school, where I, as a weirdo, found a place to belong. And also in college, feeling that, like, getting that politicization that happened in college. I see a lot of people focus on the craft, but not necessarily the content, right? So we can be amazing singers and dancers and artists of all types, but what are we saying, right? Are we feeding that part of ourselves that that allows us to transmit, to know ourselves, to understand this world, and to use our artistry to be that vessel, right? To say something more, right? Or are we just regurgitating everything that's come before? What is our authentic voice? What is our purpose? This craft, this gift. So I just love hearing about how you tapped into that, knowing a little bit about how you tap into that today. I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about J.A.M.M.
J.A.M.M actually was born during the pandemic. My entire industry was a lot of industries were shut down for, we didn't know how long. And my collaborator, co-founder, good friend, dear friend, Alexis Roberts, she messaged me on Facebook. And I had met Alexis when I first got to New York City in 2010. Her background is in dance and teaching, and we connected as artists. For years and years and years, I've journaled. I do a lot of, like, what do I really want? What do I want my life's purpose work to be? What does that look like? And a collective always came up of artists who can collaborate with one another to not only amplify other voices, but amplify our own voices and our own thoughts, and be a part of that collective fight for liberation. I had all the time in the world, and I was dabbling in things on my own, and so when she reached out, it was just kind of prime time. It took a while for me to get back to her. She says this all the time, because I was going also through some personal things, some personal heartbreaks and dark moments. But again, it was such a gift to have her and to have this during that time, because it pulled me out of the dark a bit and got me to see hope, and hopefully was able to channel that darkness, to channel that hope, to channel everything that was going on during that time and has been going on before,
that grief,
and still
that pain. So what does J.A.M.M stand for, if you could share?
It's justice through art, music, and movement. It's just that it's using our gifts, our voice to fight for the world we believe in, we imagine, we believe that we can build for each and every being. I had these songs that I loved so much, that I loved to sing, that meant so much to me. So our first really project that we did it was a dream. It was like a passion project, mostly for us to create or recreate music with movement that we felt needed to be heard. Our first project was a cover of the song called Echo by Sweet Honey in the Rock. Which is such an incredible, one of the most incredible songs.
And you do such a beautiful job with it. The video and the singing, the movement.
Yeah, we worked really hard. And so we called upon our other artist friends, and through that, it kind of, we've done covers of songs. We've been asked to, create songs for certain, days of action. And we also have produced a song that we were working with a friend, and it was kind of like a song of who we are and why we do this, called For the Love. And again, we collaborated with visual artists, singers, dancers, anyone who wanted to be a part of it. You know, that's really what the basis of this is who wants to join? Any voice, all voices.
maybe me and
what's
you
your gift, right?
J.A.M.
Exactly.
Video.
That's what I'm saying. Which is kind of what it's about, because we need one another.
Yeah.
We were able to actually perform at Union College in Syracuse, which was really beautiful.
Nice.
And then have, discussions with the youth about, the young people about, intersectional feminism. And I always think that being in conversation, especially with young people, and learning from one another is probably one of the most, impactful work one can do.
Absolutely. And the videos, and for folks listening, you can check out the videos on their YouTube page, are just so beautifully done. I love, there's one video, and I don't remember the song, please remind me of it, where it's you are on one side and there is someone doing movement on the other side. And so they're doing movement just with their hands, right? They're just, I think there's actually Echo, I think, does that too, where they're just using their hands. And I just loved, the way that just that frame was utilized in such a powerful way.
Thank you.
It was so. I know you have an exciting new artistic endeavor that you're doing. You are on the Broadway stage currently in the Broadway revival of Merrily We Roll Along, and this is such a significant achievement. And I was wondering how your work on the stage, on the Broadway stage, how does it connect? How does it tie in with your broader mission of social justice?
Yes, this has been a very long road for me. Definitely, I have to acknowledge and celebrate, when you have dreams and they come into fruition, it still sometimes seems unbelievable.
Magical.
But first and foremost, my work as an artist is, my hope at least, is to always reflect, to question, to explore what it means to be a human being. And when all the lights, makeup, costumes, when all that goes away, that's to the core. That's why I do what I do. And that being said, it is also no secret that Broadway and mainstream show business in general is still very white, liberalish space. And as a woman of color who considers herself a revolutionary socialist, being in that space can cause a bit of contention, I guess, within myself and also within the space. So again, in conjunction with celebration and dreams, it is a space that still needs changing inside of it. It operates under all the same things: capitalism, misogyny, white supremacy. So in that space, there is much work to be done, and I try to be a part of that fight for change inside of that community, because my dream is for the mainstream to reflect the people, and the struggles of, and the celebrations of the people, and the wins of the people, and the voices and the beautiful bodies of people and movements of people. We have a long way, but I mean, the stage, that community, the artistry, the hard work that everyone puts in to create those things is something that inspires me every single day, and I feel at home there, and it is my home. But in that same breath, because it is mainstream, you do, or can at least have, a lot more visibility. And as, an artist, we're able to sometimes, we're able to have access to a larger audience, a larger group of people. So it's also always really my mission to use that visibility to amplify, not only my voice and resistance, but also the people who are being oppressed and silenced every day. And I wanted to share a quote that
Yeah,
I love. It's one of my favorite
please.
quotes from Toni Morrison. She says, "I want to remind us all that art is dangerous. I want to remind you of the history of artists who have been murdered, slaughtered, imprisoned, chopped up, refused entrance. The history of art has always been bloody because dictators and people in office and people who want to control and deceive know exactly the people who will disturb their plans." And so I think for me, that quote always reminds me that we have responsibility as artists to, speak up and disturb that silence, because there is power in that.
I think about my own journey as an artist. I mentioned before that I loved Broadway and I loved
Yeah.
musical theater. As I started to think about moving into a career in that, it became difficult to see where I fit in that world. I didn't see reflections of me
Yep.
in ways that I resonated with. So it makes me really excited to see an amazing radical woman of color on the Broadway stage. That alone is such a powerful gift to those of us sitting in the audience looking for people who reflect us there. I see the shift happening. You and I both got to see, for example, Parable of the Sower, the
Oh,
opera
yes.
by
Yes.
Toshi Regan and Dr. Bernice Johnson Regan
Yes.
at Lincoln Center. And, I just feel this real gratitude to those who are also creating stories that leave space for us to be seen, to be visible,
Yes.
to be present and fully embodied
Yes.
in what we believe, in what we know, and to be able to share that on the stage. How does that resonate with you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm the type of audience member that I'm like singing and like dancing in my seat. Whenever I question if I'm doing the right thing with my life, or I'm reminded in that audience seat, when I'm the only one like truly like using voice and body, like just being in communion with the people on stage. I'm like, oh no, this is
Yes.
in my DNA.
Yes.
There is no question about it. To be at Lincoln Center and that establishment, to witness the parable of the sower, and to witness Toshi do do the thing, and talk about some pretty radical things in the middle of it, and to have it on a main stage like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it, I think, reminds us to be completely unapologetic of taking up space in
That's right.
spaces that don't necessarily want or make room for that, for
That's
these
right.
voices and for these thoughts and these beliefs and these bodies. So I thought that was so powerful in so many layers in so many different ways.
Mm. You spoke about this idea of the next generation, and that impact that you can have and how meaningful that is to you. And I wanted to see if we could touch on that a little bit more. You and I met at Our Future, which is
Yes.
a program that uniquely combines music and sustainability and leadership to empower young people and elevate their voices. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your personal experiences with that.
Yeah. Our Future is such an incredible program, something I wish I had access to when I was young, for sure. And the two young people that I met and had the pleasure of working with were extremely inspiring, to say the least. They shared their thoughts on their own communities and made the connections between the systems that persist in our society today, and how that in turn affects the inequality and things that were happening in their communities. And they also shared, their dreams, about what they thought their community could look like and what they wanted it to look like. And then to be able to just, collaborate with them to channel that into song. It was really incredible. You know, young people just never cease to amaze me. I have learned so much from them. We think about teaching, the youth, and that's extremely important, but there are so many times that has just surprised me listening to them articulate so beautifully, see humanity so beautifully. Their imagination is absolutely remarkable, and their hope and their vision. And it really, really brings me to my knees. The fight for liberation and justice is an ongoing fight. And I do believe it's gonna take, all of us to imagine and build a world where all beings can live fully beautiful lives, no matter where you come from, no matter what language you speak, no matter what land you live on. And I believe that, it starts with our young people, what we teach them, what they teach us, and, how we learn from and grow with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you share some advice that you would give to that next emerging artist who aspires to use their creative voice for positive change and social impact?
Yes. I think first and foremost, use it. Use your voice any chance you get, any way you can. The systems that keep us oppressed are loud and strong, so we must be louder and stronger. And there is so much power in the collective, and the collective needs every voice and every person. Yeah, don't be afraid to use it, or use it even when you're afraid.
Yeah.
I love quotes. So whenever, I get caught up in the fear of using my own voice, especially creatively, because as you said, we're taught this narrative of it has to look good. It has to sound good. It has to, be all these things. I'm talking mostly as like a singer, actor. I just put so much pressure on myself, to sound perfect, to sound, the right notes, not be off tune, not crack, all these things. And whenever I get paralyzed with fear, I always go back to this passage. I read a lot of Black feminist theorists and poets and activists, and one of my favorites is Audre Lorde, and she has this essay called "The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action." And I've come back to this so many times to get my perspective back on, again, why I do this work. I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. And she goes on to say, each of us is here now because in one way or another, we share a commitment to language. And I interchange language and expression together, interchangeably, and to the power of that language and to the reclaiming of that language, which has been made to work against us. In the transformation of silence into language and action, it is vitally necessary for each one of us to establish or examine her function in that transformation and to recognize her role as vital within that transformation. And that kind of puts things into perspective for me, especially for the young people who are listening. It is vital for each and every one of us to use our voice. We need you. We need your voice. We need your gifts. It is vital for our collective liberation. So really, I encourage you to use it. It is beautiful. It is powerful. And it is necessary.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And, it makes me think about when I work with students doing songwriting for social change workshops, I often remind them that this is for process, not product. Because we get so locked in this capitalist system to see everything as a product.
Yes.
And with that product has to be perfection.
Yep.
And so part of really tapping into our creative process is letting that go and
Yes.
allowing us to grow in real time, to be perfectly imperfect, to be authentic to who we are in that moment, and know that we might shift down the line, and that's
Absolutely.
okay too. You know, there's songs and art that I've created that maybe I would do different today, but they were powerful and perfect for that moment in time.
No, it's a constant struggle. It's an everyday struggle. I mean, I sit here with you and I still struggle to this day with that, the product, the perfection. But you are absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
No, I struggle with it too. And it's like, you know, as I'm working on a new show and, you know, I sit, and oftentimes part of my songwriting process is putting something on the paper, you know, writing something. And, you know, so I love when you say just use your voice, period.
Yeah.
You know, so as long as I start something, you know, I allow that process to unfold. But it's amazing how long it'll take me to write one line, one lyric, one word on that page. It's like it's really breathing out all of that, you know, story that I've been told. You know, creativity is about growth. You know, it's about growing.
Yes.
So that's important. You know, it's important to hold that. Jamila, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I am so grateful for what you're sharing with this world, for being an artist with a voice, and really utilizing that to the best of your ability in all these different ways that you do. Knowing that there's risk, right, that comes with it. When we speak up and we speak truth to power, there is a risk that we take. And I commend you, and I'm grateful to you for the courage and the fortitude within you to speak that truth to power. So thank you.
Thank you. I thank you for those affirmations. I need them. So I thank you for that.
Yeah. Take care.
Me too.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Rhythm of Rebellion. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to see more inspiring stories from artists creating social change, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps grow this platform and amplify these powerful voices. And if you'd like to take your support even further, I invite you to check out my Patreon page. By becoming a patron, you're not just supporting this podcast, you're helping to bring my work to protests, community spaces, and schools. And it's through your contributions that I can share my work, like my protest song, No es mi presidente, at an important demonstration, perform my climate justice show, Fever Pitch, at a community conference, and lead songwriting workshops like Reclaim the Thunder at a K-12 school. You can also visit my website at liberation.music to learn more about my music, activism, and upcoming events. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky at Taína Asili. All the links are in the description below. And finally, if you want to learn more about today's guest and their incredible work, all their information is included in the show notes as well. So be sure to check it out and support their art and activism. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. Peace, love, and liberation.